Scruffy Audio Network.
All right, man. Just another day in the Woodgym. This guy needs no introduction. He's been on the show before. He's the number one cat in the gym. His name's Dr. James Choo. Chewy, how are you, buddy?
Good.
Man, thanks for taking time on a Sunday at 1 o'clock to get in here and try to discuss this topic that you and I have been talking about for a long time. And I think I'm trying to make the, not the transition, but more of the, doing the pro athletes, the high school athletes, the college athletes, the in-shape CEOs that I have, freaks like you, strongest guy, and he's my Floyd Mayweather of the Woodgym, pound for pound, the strongest guy in the gym, walking badass himself, Chewy.
Without the money.
With Chewy. Well, we don't know. We don't know we got to pull those financial reports, see what's going on. So I got Choo in here for a second time on the show because I think it's come. I've had a revelation about strength and conditioning and wellness and performance and speed and strength and all the things that are going on right now. And I feel like we lost a generation of, the godfather of fitness, Jack LaLanne, that you and I have talked about. Chewy and I have had so many podcast shows that haven't been on a podcast in the Woodgym of, late nights, early mornings, or Sunday afternoons when I'm supposed to be home at 2 and you're supposed to be home and we're sitting here, batting the fat for another hour and a half of topics that you see every day and that I see every day. And who I talk about, the godfather of fitness, is a man named Jack LaLanne that a lot of people don't know about. The generation is gone. The older generation, I would say.
The jumping jack. That's where we got the term,
jumping jack.
The jumping jack.
Yeah, from Jack LaLanne. If people Googled him, he was your ultimate fitness guru of 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. So
way ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time. So what I'm trying to transition into is train the pro athletes are great, train the high school athletes are great, but that 35 and up, the 40 and up, the 50 and up, they don't have anybody to go to because we talk about the same thing. If you go to social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all the same. You have a 26 or 27-year-old female or male trainer that are doing these outlandish exercises and saying, hey, you could do this. Or you have... it's all performance-based sports performance coaches on these sites, and it's like, well, I don't want to have a 40-inch vertical. I can't do a 40-inch vertical.
Never
I'm 55 years old, never could.
Yeah.
I want to take care of my heart. I want to get good sleep. I want to lower my cholesterol, watch out for type 2 diabetes. And I think that just dawned on me just listening to other podcasts of other coaches that are going through the same thing of like, that's a lost generation. So again, Chewy, you see it, you're a medical doctor, you have a practice, you talked about it forever. I know I'm getting long-winded with this, but I'm going to set it up and then you're going to freestyle it like a Frisbee. Okay. Is we talk like you go, Charlie, your Woodgym isn't the norm of our society. And we're going to get real. Yeah. We're going to get real on this. And this isn't just one show today, people. It's going to be a series of shows because this is very, very important to me and on my heart. Now at 51, you've established yourself. You have the jerseys on the wall. You're doing all that. You're labeled the speed guru guy or strength guru, whatever somebody wants to call me. We talk about from obesity to mental illness that you and I talk about on and on, and going, you're like, Chaz, what you see in the Woodgym of a Harrison Smith or a CJ Procise or a Chad Pennington or a Todd Helton or Leonard Fournette or Luke Hochave or a Jan Gomes. I mean, we go on and on with all the guys that you have coming through here. That's not the norm. That's not the norm at all.
It's not even the norm in their fields either. But I mean, it's here all the time. And so I've been here long enough to see many of those guys come through here. And if you're surrounded by that, you kind of feel like that's just how life works. And it's really not. I think you realize that after you have sat in hospital ERs or, waiting at the doctor's office and you see the segments of population that I see every single day. I mean, it's you sense it first with your eyes, and you walk in here, and what do you see? You see these guys in the physical prime, these guys who are, and girls who are, even genetically gifted, and just not, came into this world above average for sure. And then, the mentality and this and that, the training, all that. But then you see what's out there in the real world by just walking in your grocery store, or where there are lots of people, or the airport, especially the hospital waiting rooms or whatever it may be. And it is not the same thing, right? We talked about that a lot.
Well, I've been fortunate enough, and unfortunate enough to be in the hospital this last year with a couple of events that have gone on with some of my close people. And you're sitting in these hospital rooms and the waiting rooms, and we could go on and on of if one partner is out of shape and looks 15 years older than what they are, the other partner's right behind them, sitting down next to them, looking the same way.
Right.
Okay. Then we go to what you were talking about almost this time last year, where I was in the hospital for almost 6 weeks, watching a loved one basically fight for her life and pass away. Chaz, when they're 70 years old and they've done everything to their body they haven't been able to, that shouldn't be doing, and then they're like, here, now fix them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's my oil that hasn't been changed in 20 years, and my tires are bald, and my brakes are gone. Right. Now it's up to you to fix it.
Fix the transmission now, after you've not put good oil, and changed it out and taken care of it. It's the horse is out of the barn by then, for a lot.
And you think and I guess it is my age, and I think even you, when you get, you're super fit, you're uber fit, we get this, but when you get even older, you're going, no, wait a minute, like Jimmy Haslam, one of the guests I had on here, and he's a very, very close friend of mine. Just for example, he's going to be 66 years of age, trains in here yesterday at 11. Before he trained, he did 6 miles of hills of walking, and if he could get away in the afternoon, he was going to do another 3 miles. Well, I woke up this morning at 6, boom, Jimmy's on there going, I did my 3 miles. I'm like, that's so awesome. You're telling me you did 9 miles of walking and then a Woodgym workout at 11. He's like, yeah, just like you said, I have to do more as I get older. Yeah. But we feel like we have to do less as we get older. Like our guy Ben right here, slouched down in the couch, he could get away with it because he's young. He could get away with some cheat days, and I'm not going to do anything. So you could do less as you're younger, but you have to do more as you get older. Yeah. But the pendulum swings the other way. Yeah. We do less, it's not for me. I can't do that anymore. I can't do this anymore. Well, yeah, you're not 20, you're not 30, but you could still do things every day.
Oh, yeah. And I think we always point to the one guy that you and I both love, and that's Laird Hamilton. That guy's around your age.
He's 55.
55.
I'm 51.
A little bit older. And he had a guy that he worked with for many, many, many years, who was decades older than him. Yeah, Don Wildman.
Yes,
and talking about a man in his 70s and 80s doing what 20 and 30-years can't.
I think
do.
He was 84 doing heli skiing, where you jump out of a helicopter and ski down the thing. And my oldest client is Jimmy's father. He's 89 years of age, Mr. Jim Haslam Sr. Yeah. Still functional. Yeah. Still functional. Yeah. Like, still wanting to come down and get balance and get this. And as you said, you told me this, and maybe I heard it on a podcast, but you've told me for years and years, you never see an 80-year-old obese person living. And all my older gentlemen are skinny. They're in shape. They look like Olympic triathlon.
Oh, yeah. Really thin, and not much of a gut, if at all. There's a physique to those who do that, really prosper health wise in their 70s and 80s, and they're never overweight.
Chewy, we could go on. That's why I think I'm embarking on another chapter of the Woodgym. Because the Woodgym is a place where 2 more dads started yesterday. Because how I'm recruiting these guys now is I'm older than the parents now, and they bring their 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old. And they walk in, and their face is swollen. It's red. They have these these type 2 diabetes guts that are chilling out there, and you just walk up to them, and I hit them hard with, how old are you? I'm 46. And I'm like, holy shit, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? You're right. Like, you're really practicing something like, do you want to, watch your son go through college? Do you want to get married? Those are the goals that should be more of, not the body fats. But then, the big thing, Wayne, is we got to figure out, how do people settle for 33% body fat when they measure it on my body fat thing and go, man, and we talked about this. Yeah. Do they look in the mirror and go, nailed it, I'm looking good? Yeah. You said, no, they don't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, or in their complete denial of where they are. And I think part of it is that your eyes shift. Now we're in America where 67%, 2/3 of Americans, close to it, maybe a little bit less, are overweight. And so that is by far, that means the average person that you see is unhealthy as far as weight is concerned. And so it's never more evident to me when, you come back to America from maybe, say, an overseas, overseas trip or something like that, and you land in an American airport and you're like, oh my God. People in America are massive, just huge. And, and that should never be normal. That should be an outlier in your mind's eye that, walking around like that. But it's not. I mean, I think everybody else, if everybody is of a certain type, of ill health, then that becomes your new normal. And sadly enough, that should never be the case in America, right? I mean, richest place in the world, richest country in the world, but that's what we see. And I think that, so if you're 33% looking in the mirror, there's a lot of people that are 33. There might be some that are even bigger, and if your cohort of people that you're hanging out with is of that type or bigger, then I mean that you might be slaying it in comparison. But the shift of where we are, in a lot of ways, it needs to come back towards, what's reasonable for a healthy human being, and we're so far off of that in our society, and it shouldn't have to be that way. We talk about Jack LaLanne, who's a small man. I don't think he even was 5'5", maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
Rocked a unitard. Had his own show.
He did have it.
But like you said, at 80 years old, I remember, maybe 75. I remember my old man was in the airport and saw him with his wife. They were both in crazy shape, but you could tell that she managed him. She was the head chief, the handler, and he was doing his thing, and she, he was, as usual, Mike Petrone would do, is talk to him for a minute or whatever, because he remembered him, and he still said he looked good. I mean, he came up with the juicer. I remember having one. That's right. The juicer. I remember, and he talked about the greens and everything that you're so hell-bent on, of like, I get my greens in, I get this in, I get this in. I just don't get Chewy.
But back to him, in his 40s and 50s, I mean, he was swimming in Alcatraz pulling a tugboat.
Yeah.
And he's 5'5".
Yeah.
The
feats he did.
The physical strength and he was not, he would tell you beforehand in his life that he was fat, overweight, ate a bunch of sugar, and was in terrible moods and, all this kind of stuff as a young child. And then when he started going into fitness, he bettered his life and, became this like evangelizer for all things, fitness. But he you can see the possibilities of what you can do in your 40s and 50s if you apply. You don't have to pull a boat across the English Channel. That's not what we're saying. But what it demonstrates to you, he's probably the physiology of the everyday man. I mean, this is not an Olympian. This is not a genetic freak. He's 5'5", turned his life around with a lot of discipline and the right mindset. And in his 40s and 50s, he's outworking 99.9% of men and women half his age. Like, so why can't you do it? I think that was the appeal to a Jack LaLanne and why he was so, popular and ahead of his time. It's because, so why would you then settle for 33% body fat? If you know that you could be like the everyday man, and if you were to apply, you don't have to, you don't have to do all the things that he did, but you could do a hell of a lot more and feel a lot better. I mean, why not? I mean, that's the whole point of a guy like that. Why he's not, if you had, one of these ex-athletes that could, jump 40 inches and, that doesn't speak to the everyday person, but a guy like that, who's physically unremarkable, but made himself remarkable over, because of his discipline and that. I mean, I think that's kind of what's missing in maybe the Instagrams or whatever it may be that you're targeting towards. But I mean, I think that's kind of what would, set things apart from, all these super exceptional athletes that is in the fitness world today, if that makes any sense.
It makes tons of sense because we're talking about a guy, like, I guess you hit on another thing that I want to really strive for is the average guy doing the unaverage. And that's Jack LaLanne. Like, you could relate to that. Like, okay, not pulling the boat, we get it, but he's going, be fit, move every day. A happy joint is a movable joint.
Yeah.
And I do think, I'm getting back on Laird Hamilton, but I don't think he's a freak athlete as much as he's freaky into the best he can be with holistic wellness.
Yeah.
Because if you really listen to his podcast, we could go on forever. If you listen to his podcast, he talks about taking the turmeric, or the right teas or the right sleep. And he believes if you wear yourself out through the day, you shouldn't have all these sleep problems that everybody has, and if you stop drinking alcohol 4 hours before you go to sleep and an hour of caffeine before you could do so much more. But nobody picks those choices that he does, and he does minimalist exercises that keep him fit, and he looks fabulous. Now, can he jump on a box like Harrison Smith at 43 inches with a 40-pound weight vest? No.
But at the age of 55, he's slaying it.
He is bringing it, but he's active as hell. Yeah. And what did he say in his podcast? I'd rather lay down on a sword than to stop moving every day.
Yeah.
Or retirement. He talked about retirement.
As far as medicine is concerned, I don't know of a better medicine for what America needs in nutrition and exercise, and probably exercise number one, because I think it's everyone has a tendency to pick this diet, and they swing with their diets up and down, and there's a lot of controversy as to what's the appropriate diet and all that, and that's really not my area anyway. But exercise, as far as a fundamental medicine that people need, I mean, we're in such short supply of it. I mean, and it's really, we set in the medical world, we set the bar so pitifully low that we say, hey, you need to do 2 to 3 days of no more than 15 to 20 minutes of very slow walking as a start. And really, everybody should be doing well more than that in their daily life. But that's where we are with a lot of people. Now, this is not to discount the fact that there are a lot of people that have true illnesses that, keep them back, or injuries or whatever it may be. So, I mean, there are some true exceptions out there, but for the vast majority of, reasonably healthy Americans who have a chronic lifestyle problem, I mean, we have set the bar so low as to what we prescribe for exercise that it blows my mind that we have to start that low.
That's a great point.
I mean, it's like, 15, I mean, what are we doing here that's, every bit more than that, and we will see some people come in once or twice a week, and, it's a heck of a lot harder than 15 minutes of, slow walking, and we say it's not enough, right? I mean, even just coming into the Woodgym, banging out some circuits once or twice a week, and we're like, that's just a start. But we're asking our public to do even less than that.
That's a great
point. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I had a fit dad in here yesterday that I've trained his son. He's a hell of a ball player, and the dad, I think, is 37 or 38. And I said, what do you think your optimal fitness is a week? Like time, days, or whatever? He said exactly what you said.
Yeah.
3 days. And I'm like, so the other 4 days, you're doing jack shit.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're getting at. And then, all the infomercials from Tony Horton, whatever his name is, talking about, 6-minute abs, 6-minute workouts, 15-minute workouts, PX90. You could get it all done, and it's complete bullshit. Like, you can't do that. Like, and it's not even sustainable, because then the people don't see results, and then they stop doing anything instead of going, here's the truth.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
It's not convenient.
It's not going to be convenient. You're going to have to do something at least 6 days a week.
You're going to have to eliminate some of these things that you like doing that's not good for you. Or, you know, it's just, make time for this or whatever it is. Yeah.
Right. And it's not even that we're sitting here wanting to be life coaches. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about exercise and fitness.
Health,
is general health that blows me away. Now that I've pulled back and I've had time to just sit back and what's next for me? Yeah. Where's my next chapter? And it's just like, if I don't scream from the top of the mountain going, are you kidding me? And I've had some people close to me the last year pass away.
Yeah.
I mean, my financial advisor dropped dead at 47 or 48.
Yeah. And likely to health choice, lifestyle.
Again, his boy trains here. He comes in, he works out, and then he comes and picks him up, and he's my height. And we talk about this. Nobody means and measures.
Yeah.
Means and measures. We're in a time in 2019 where nobody wants to take accountable for the numbers. Because what, Ben? Numbers don't lie. People do. And it's a damn truth. So I go, hey, big man. I said, you look a little swole today. Face red. The belly's hard. I said, you want to get on the scale? I said, what do you think you weigh? He's like, I don't know, 240, 247. Got on the scale. 279 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to tell me, like, and that's another thing that we're not supposed to do in the strength and conditioning personal trainer industry. Don't weigh too much. Let your body do. Okay. So at our age, 5 pounds.
The numbers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about how you feel. Okay. So how do you feel at 5'10", 279?
I think to an extent, that might be true how you feel, but that's after a lot of getting in touch with your body over a long period of time, if that makes any sense. Like, we've also talked about these high performers that, they've got few decades worth of, relationship with their trainers, and, they're at the peak of their game, and they can talk about how their body feels. That's not. We're not talking me and Harrison Smith. That's not you, right. General public. It's because at this point in time, if you're talking about 15 minutes a day, you have no idea what your body should feel like at that point in time. If that's where you are, you could do so much more, and you won't know where that is without a lot of time and hard work to get there. And if there are people that are listening that are already fit and they're at that point, good on you. But we're talking about the average American, and it's so far, as far as the curve of where we are, we're so far away from that, and so. Applying these, ideas of it's just how you feel, man. Now, maybe you should step on the scale, take a hard look at what you're eating, take a hard look at, and be very, very objective about those things and work at it, and, the numbers that you should be looking at maybe is, hey, I'm not as winded after 20 minutes of hard work, or I'm not as, over more so than maybe the scale initially, but I mean, am I doing more? Am I, in objectively looking at that? Am I, in the end, feeling a little bit better? Am I, there's some other things to look at besides just the numbers, but, but at the same time, measurables, they matter, right?
Yeah. And I think that so well said of like, the balance of the means and measures to how you feel, right? I mean, you could go overboard, weigh every day, be, obsessive compulsive with the weight. But then if you're doing that, you're probably, like you said, probably pretty dialed in of like trying to figure some stuff out of like, I can't get over this, or if they're, doing a competition or whatever it is to how you feel.
But if you're at that point, this is not the conversation for you.
No, this isn't the conversation. Yeah. And I do think people, not only do they have to weigh, but they have to have the body fat analysis and muscle to fat ratio, because then you're working with, if you're going to start lifting and things are going to change and move around and that type of jazz. But I think the topic of our conversation today, I want to bring you in, and we're talking about the obesity, and that the more doing more is okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the shift, Chewy.
Yeah.
I'll be 29 years in this business this May. 29 years. I've seen the shift of less is more. Yeah. Okay. Now, like, again, Harrison Smith. Hey, Harrison, what about the third set? Chaz, I'm good. 2 sets. Cool. Less is more. The guy knows his body.
That's a lot of wood in the fire that he's placed over his
We've been training since
life.
8th grade.
Yeah. And so that
was he 12 and now he's 31? We get it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the business people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the normal person that tries to run through here and sees me once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And then that's all they do.
Right.
So it's not money hungry for me going, open up your checkbook. You need to get in here about 5-6 days a week. I'm saying do more when you're not in here.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
For that, kind of average slice of America, we're so far away from where we should be as far as activity. And like you said, 5-6 days a week, it's not going to kill you. It's actually where you're going to find your improvements, right?
Well, and that's where, again, Chewy, it's been an awesome ride with you guys. From you, Pennington, Freddie Smith. I've had all you guys on Chad on, our godfather of web that, catapulted me into what I'm doing and, godfather of my kids. But you 3 guys have watched this journey from height when you were in high school and I was training you now to, are you 42, 43?
42. Mm-hmm.
You're 42 and you got your own goals that you kicked ass on from all the mountains. You're just seeing the trend of you have to be accountable, and I think that's lost, and I don't know what our world's gotten to. So when my business guys come in, I treat them like athletes of, don't forget scale and body weight Mondays, because they've had the weekend. And they love it because they're like, man, if I didn't have this place to come to, I might forget about getting on the scale and definitely not going to measure body fat.
Yeah.
So you keep me accountable. So it's almost like some of the guys I have, some of the cats I have, they're just trying to keep the tide from going out too fast.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
if they could hover at that 187 to 190, okay, cool. But if I don't see Chaz or come to the Woodgym, I could slip up and be 194 in a week. If they travel, they come back and they're like, well, shit, I just put on 3 or 4 pounds. Did you weigh it all? No. Okay, well, let's get back on.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're a little, I don't know, tiffy, pissed off, like, or I don't want to get on today. Well, that means that you haven't been doing your cardio, your work, your movement. I'm not even talking.
Bit of an exposure to,
right. And I guess, like you said, of dabbling into your field of nutrition, dieting, fads. I think we're talking about just do something more every day. Right?
Absolutely.
Like there's enough nutrition plans and diet plans and all that.
I mean, for me, I think the baseline is, just start out with doing more. Out with doing more. I mean, and the diets and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be important. But I mean, if step 1 is that you're not getting up and you're not moving every day, then that is something that needs to be fixed. I mean, and that's a conscious decision, by anyone that can make that. But I mean, we have settled for a very low bar, especially in the medical profession, and also, like you said, part of the accountability is that the fat shaming and this and that. But I mean, how else, to a degree, can you keep yourself knowing where you are with at least some measurables, and you don't need to measure yourself 3 times a day, but maybe every other day or something like that. But I mean, the numbers won't lie, like you said. Are you pushing more? Are you, if you're working with weights, are you, how are you going to benchmark your success to a degree? Is through the black and whites of some numbers, right? And balancing that, right? Is that, I think that's what you're kind of saying, right?
Yeah, and you use the word the fat shaming. Well, I mean, how about shame with love? Like, how about being honest and real, because it is 1 Corinthians 13 out of the Bible of, if I didn't say anything, that means I don't care.
Right.
So we'll take an example of a kid I had about 4 or 5 years ago that walked in the door. I think he was a freshman, and he was 290 pounds in fat. And I told him, I said, if you don't get in shape, you won't live to see your sophomore year.
Yeah.
And it clicked for him.
Yeah.
And the damn kid is amazing. He went into diet, went into 5-6 days a week, and got down at one point to like 178 and 181 pounds.
Yeah,
was because it didn't shame him, it scared him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. Mm-hmm. And the shame, that's all on you. Scare is, oh shit, I got to do something about it.
Yeah.
I got to get going.
Yeah. As a motivator, there's, this is a good place for you to kind of concentrate your efforts on, because we do need that everyman Jack LaLanne to get these people up and going. As far as a platform for you to at least help with some of that.
Well,
it's a good way to be. And being able to, apply, the kind of sciences and expertise on this area that you have, that, it's actually, it's going to be a harder battle than, finding the Leonard Fournettes.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
You get voicemails, DMs from athletes. Hey, I want to come in this off season. Washington National pitcher hit me up, DM. Hey, I'll be in there in October. Great, let's roll. We got you. That's not what I'm trying to. These guys are, like you said, type A personality. Yeah. Woodgym. That's how I started the format of the podcast. Everybody is already the elite cheetah, trying to get a little bit faster.
Right.
The bear trying to get a little bit stronger. Yeah. They're already the strongest, the fastest, top of the game.
Looking for an edge.
Looking for that next edge, that 1% body fat, that 1/10 to take them to playing to Pro Bowl level.
Right.
Or All-Star level.
Right.
You're right. This is totally different. Like, I don't sell that part of my business.
It's like one of the hardest things that I do in medicine is trying to, because some of the backlash that you get, is that if you're not giving a pill, if you're not giving this or that, you're not providing care. You don't care about me because you're not giving me something I need in order, to swallow or whatever to make myself feel better. And especially in the world of pain, which is where I do my work. It's a very, 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 very hard sell for some, and you get some hate as a result of it. But it's like, we have our psychologists that work with us, and in order to get those, there are going to be some people that are what we call pre-contemplative, that are, it doesn't matter what you say, they will never, their current mindset will never be able to, transition into some type of motivation. But it's those people that are somewhat on the fence of whether or not they are ready for an active amount of change. Like, how do you draw those people into a more active kind of mindset? That's always been a real challenge for us, because it's like, well, how do you put down the pills and the procedures and live a better life and lifestyle? It is something, a lot of people give the medical world a lot of criticisms for saying, well, all you guys, cram pills down people's throat. You never talk about nutrition and diet and all that. Let me tell you, if I were to give a nutrition and diet in a talk like this to some of my patients, there would be some who are in this pre-contemplative mode, or whatever it may be, could be a health literacy issue, whatever it may be, that, I'd be looked at as the devil. And then there are some that are thirsting for that, information on wellness and there's some others that are kind of in the middle, and you have to have the right approaches in order to, kind of pull them towards that more active, motivated self. It's not easy. If they don't want it, then, you're coming in with these active mindset, these highly motivated individuals that are here that sought you out. And then, so their motivation level is a lot higher than the average. But what do you do about that one, that generation, or that kind of middle area that are kind of thinking about it, but they don't want to do it? And, how do you get them onto that other side? That's really hard. There's a lot of psychological motivation techniques and whatnot that my psychologists know more about than I do, but that's kind of, even in medicine, it's a hard thing to do, and a lot of medical doctors don't even think along these lines, because it's, the time to have the psychologist and this and this and that, where they don't get paid for it, and it's not worth their quote unquote time, because that's not how they get to make their money. That's not how they get reimbursed. So really, in the end, platforms like this, you have to go almost outside of the entire medical industry to resources like this that can be accessible online. That's how you're going to draw those people out, because you're not going to find it in our world, if that makes any sense, in the professional medical setting.
Yeah, because you're not the pill guy. I mean, you're not the pill guy. And I need to tell everybody here that's listening or watching or in this room or in this Woodgym, I forgot when you brought me to your facilities to look around. And he has a PT center. He has psych. You know, he has the psychologist in there. So it's everything to get those people better than meds.
Yeah. Now, and it's hard.
Well, I mean,
it's really hard.
You talk about overweight, and you know, the first thing everybody does is as soon as they lose 10, 15 pounds, their joints feel better.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
100%.
So that's the first thing we preach is like, you know, when somebody's like, you know, and I have guys in here and girls, you know, my back and knees are killing me right now. And I'm like, well, try to drop 15, 20 pounds, see what happens.
Oh, man. I mean,
instead of taking another hydro.
There's never been a patient I've ever seen of mine that regretted losing 10 or 15 pounds. Right? It's never, almost universally, if they're overweight, they always feel better. Period. The end. There's never, I never, the regret comes when they've added 10 or 15. When they lose 10 or 15, I have never met a patient that has been like, that was a bad decision.
I mean, I did forget. I mean, maybe that was 3 or 4 years ago when you said, hey, come down, check my place out. You know, and maybe I had that's when I had the whole neck and shoulder thing of right. Everything was numb and I couldn't lift my arms. You know, I was falling apart also. And, you know, I was heavier then and doing a lot of not making the right choices through the day, you know, from all the things I was trying to mask too. So, and it caught up with me.
Sure.
You know, it sent me to you, sent me to Cleveland Clinic, you know, it was on. And then when I got to your place, you're like, let me take you around. And I couldn't be more proud of what he was doing. It was absolutely like, he's the man in this building of everything. It's holistic. It has everything. It has the psych. It has the therapy. And maybe, you know, everybody in there looks at Dr. James Choo, and I was just calling him Chewy because I always see him from
Wang.
Spring Break or Wang or Jimmy Choo. But I was like, I'm so proud of this son of a bitch, man. He's nailing it, and he's keeping his moral and value compass right in the line. As he's not like, I've had tons of patients, some athletes, and they're like, he's not writing scripts easily. He's not. He is going to make sure you go through all these protocols first, and then go there. And that's what he was saying. I mean, he shared some stories. I don't know if he can from HIPAA protection on Mike, but like the obese people that come through there, you're just like, you know, But you think it starts with the mental aspect.
So there's so much of it, you know, and I mean, there's, you know, the mental game is, you know, learning from our psychologists. It's so.
Hello, childhood.
Complex.
You know.
Yes.
I mean, we could go on and on.
Yeah, that's its own podcast.
That's its own.
But and probably more than what we're here for today, and maybe we'll do that later. But it is extremely complex. I'm always shocked by how much I don't know about it and how much more I need to know about it. But, you know, psychologists kind of, you know, remind us how important it is. But it's very complicated.
You know, I know you're very active. You're six. You know, people don't know your daily routine, but it's very active with jiu-jitsu and coming in here at 6 days a week. Don't you find that it's the best energy drug going is exercise?
100%. I mean, that's why I do it. I feel so much better. And I think that's kind of where the scale is, you know, at some point in time, you know, if you're on the other side of, you know, this wellness hump where you need to, you know, kind of push through that, do more, you know, get dialed in, you know, optimize yourself. And, you know, for some people that might take a few years. You know, others might take less, but once you get to the other side, there's no looking back. Because, I mean, you know, if you were to remind yourself how you felt prior to your, you know, kind of engagement in more of these activities, I mean, it's basically like, physically, you know, if you were, you know, in some impoverished ghetto, and then you're out on the other side in the hills of, you know, some affluent city, like, why would you want to go back? You know, like, why would you want to go back?
Right.
Into,
you don't go back.
You don't go back.
I mean, and
it's a one-way street, you know, like, you know.
They don't go back. Once they make it, they don't go back.
Not to get too political, but like, you know, people in Texas aren't knocking at the door to go across the border into Mexico, right? It's the other way around. So it's like that with wellness. It's like once you get to the other side, it's like, I don't want to go back, you know, because you feel so much better, if that makes any sense.
It makes great sense. And then I'll end it with this last statement. I mean, because we're going to have tons more segments, because you're going to see different individuals coming through here that I've, you know, not hammered the dads or whatever, but hey, instead of sitting out of the car, because no parents are allowed in the gym while we train. That's, you know, forbidden here. That's get the hell out, you know, sit in the car or come in and train. And that's how I've had some of my clientele that are over 40 or 50, instead of sitting in the car, you know, eating something or going to Starbucks and grabbing a muffin, get in here, move.
Absolutely,
you know, I used to do that. So when you talked about the last thing, the push to the pull, and I think I want to make a shirt that says that on the back, is you don't want to be pushed into doing it. You want the gravitational pull of, I want to do it. You know, and that's what we're talking about. At first, you're going to go, I don't want to do this walk. And how many times do you feel better after a bike ride, a training session, a walk, whatever it is, when you're done with the 45, 50 minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, I can do more.
It's the best decision I've made.
It's the best.
For you know, it's like, you know, that getting over that kind of sluggishness, and then you're just like, you know, I never regret showing up afterwards, right? You never regret it. The regret is when you don't do it.
Right.
You know,
just get out of here. Get out of the house, do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you feel much better.
All right.
Awesome. All right. This will wrap up the part one of the new movement, 2020. It's coming. Thanks, Dr. James Choo. I love you.
Oh, man. Love you.
So blessed.
Yep.